Welcome to the Coming Out Happy podcast. You're going to come along with us. My name's Keely. I'm a seasoned somatic therapist. And my partner, Dani, she's a 2-time published author and life coach. Let's hype her up. And as we navigate the balance between running 2 businesses, Coming Out Happy, our first company exploring sustainable well-being, and our second company, FeelSwell Experiences, a leadership development company, you're going to see the real behind the scenes and also get practical tips for a balanced and joyful life. You're going to join us for some real candid conversations about relationships, self-discovery, leadership, in a real down-to-earth way. So from shared stories to laughter, the Coming Out Happy podcast is the go-to place for those seeking wisdom and simple joys and living well. So whether you're here for insights or a good conversation, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. We're on a mission to inspire 1 million people, so you can be a part of that mission by hitting follow and subscribe. And trust me, we're going to give you the best of the best in these episodes. So let's get into it. Back, and AI is a real thing right now. We've been learning so much about it, but we've also found it really helpful in our own lives. But I think it's given us this new idea of thinking that you're talking to people all day long because you're literally typing in things on ChatGPT, if you are, and it feels like you're having a friend. And it's really not a friend. But I also think this can apply to how we communicate on social media. It's like we're always feeling like we're connected to people. It's this idea of hyper connectivity. But when it comes to actually building real community, what does that really look like? I mean, Dani, what are your thoughts on this so far? This is a huge topic right now.
Yeah, I think and we probably have been for a really long time, have been going through a loneliness epidemic, as I've heard it throughout time and time again. You know, America, that's where we live, is such an individualistic society where we're seeking out any type of way to connect. And when COVID happened, we had to go home and start using Zoom more. And then AI started being developed heavily. And then we're talking with chat all the time, trying to, work better and work easier. And that really has become something that a lot of people go to as their way of learning with the outside connections, I guess.
No, absolutely. And I mean, it's interesting because I've even found myself personally using it for work, and then I'm typing and it's very helpful, and I'm saying things like thank you so much, and I'm actually having, it feels like a conversation with this robot. So it's a very interesting concept. And then you feel like at the end of the day, maybe you didn't even leave your house, but you've had this conversation, but it's this false sense of connection.
Yeah. Working from home, working for ourselves, that's what I was saying about the loneliness epidemic. We have been working at home for the last 4 years at this point. Now that it's 2024, it happened in 2020, all that stuff happened, and we started working at home. And just recently we actually got a co-working space so that we can be out of the house and can actually see people's faces. But a lot of people have been stuck at home for a really long time, and I feel like it's not talked about enough how much we need to socialize and how good it is for our mental health to actually be talking with people and to be cared about and to have that community where you feel like you can rely on people.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think at this stage in the game of where we're at, and if you want community, you have to actually build it yourself. And I don't just mean you have to go and create your own, but you have to find events, you have to find things that are happening to actually put yourself out there, and it's a matter of going.
Yeah. Let's talk about what we were talking about this morning, and I briefly touched on it, but in America everything is spread out so much where you can't just walk downstairs like you can maybe in Europe or in other countries where you can just create that community and it's right around you. You have to drive and really make an extensive effort to actually have these different types of communities and relationships that are going on. I can't even sometimes I can't even think about it because it really just, it makes me sad to think about how many of us who went to college had access to people all around us 24/7. And then as we became adults, as we started to live our lives and go get jobs and, worked our way, we lost that sense of community because we have been isolated, number one, through COVID, and really how most of the land around us is spread out. So we do have to go drive everywhere, and we can't just walk around outside of our spaces and are able to just access people 24/7.
Yeah, I would say it's even different across the US. Like, you're from New York, we live in San Diego. I'm from Colorado. I feel like San Diego, we live in more of the outskirts, not so much in the city. And what I notice is that you really have to make an effort to go make plans. I mean, you have to drive. You can't really walk, to go make plans with people. And then in New York City, people are living in smaller communities, and you can go downstairs and, you can go to a coffee shop or you can go to a bar and you're sitting, side by side. So it is interesting depending on where you live. I mean, it's different in every single place. But what I've found helpful is, number one, us getting out of the house and actually being able to create a co-working space. Also, it's very helpful for me as someone that has ADHD to have other people around me while I'm working. I mean, even for yourself, do you feel like you get more done when you're working with other people?
I don't think I get more done, but I do feel more fulfilled when I have other people around me. Like I was just saying, through spending so much time working at home and actually being super isolated and just honestly self-isolating myself, I think it just declined how I was feeling about myself and how I felt about life and the world and future relationships, because I felt so alone. And throughout my job, I'm not working face to face with a lot of people. So most of the time I am just working by myself. So working around other people and just getting out of the house for any reason just helps me feel better, which I do think eventually makes me more productive, because I actually feel better about myself, better about the work that I'm doing. I feel more confident. And so that's really what I think it brings. So I think it's a delayed effect of the productivity that I can have through surrounding myself with people because of how long I've spent just being alone.
Yeah. What are some of the feelings that you have when you get outside and you're with other people? Like, what do you feel in your body?
I just feel connected. Like, you and I do life very differently, where you go out and you talk to everybody. And we were just talking about it this morning, how Keely will just go to all these classes and she'll make all these friends and she'll keep up with people and she'll do all this, and it comes so naturally to her. But for me, I'm a little bit more introverted, but I love being around people, even if I'm not saying much. I think maybe because I grew up with it, I had a family where you didn't necessarily have to talk, but you were always invited to everything and you were always able to just be a part of it. No matter what it is that you had to say, you just were automatically in it. And I love that feeling. It's like you don't have to have the pressure of actually going and speaking and performing if it's not something that you want to do, but you're able to just be your full self and be there. And yeah, I forgot where we were going with that.
Yeah, no, just the feelings that you have, around being in community, what connection can feel like.
I think that's the most natural thing. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, I feel like all of us are meant to, have our time alone, obviously, so that we can digest and relax and, recoup ourselves. But I think that's what we're meant to do. Yeah.
And do you think a part of it also is understanding what kind of connection that you're having? Because I kind of brought up AI in the beginning and how that can feel like you're talking to a friend. You could even name your chat. But at the same time, for me, I am going to all those classes. I am going and I'm talking to people at the coffee shop, or I'm talking to people that are strangers, and I may never see them again.
Yeah.
So I think it's a different kind of connection than, hey, I'm going to dinner with a close friend and we're catching up on the deepest parts of our lives. So it's also understanding what kind of connection are you experiencing and what is showing up for you and how do you feel? And I guess it's that question, because for me, I could probably go a pretty long time without really a lot of deeper connection, because I see that, like, I'm so used to going to the gym. I'm so used to
what does that feel like to you? Because I know that we're very different. I want to touch on how we have different relationships, not because, we care about different things, but like, how does it feel to you to have many relationships that are acquaintances, I guess?
Well, for me, it's like, I love talking to people. I just really do. Like, I love getting to know people. I love asking questions. I love just understanding more and more about who people are, their story. And Dani knows anyone that comes and talks to me, I'll get to know you. You genuinely feel like I'm really listening and trying to understand who you are as a person. And
people
I think
really do
me,
feel loved by you.
What?
That's what I was saying this morning. They feel so loved and inspired by you. That's what I see when people get near you.
Oh, that's nice. That's what I hope to do, right? I want to impact every single person that I'm around. And for me, I do that a lot.
Yeah.
So it is harder for me to have deeper connections and have a handful of those. It's easier for me to have 20 more, not surface level, but just more connections that I'm not like intensely keeping up with 24/7. And I don't think it's a bad thing.
No.
I think it's just more of my personality that I have a lot of capacity for more quantity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I'm during work too, like I'm on the phone all like a lot of the day. I'm talking to my mentors, I'm talking to business people, I'm speaking, I'm doing a lot of that. So it's more challenging for me to cut out that time to go deeper. And obviously I'm in a romantic relationship with you, and so making that time is very important. But I would say it's something that I struggle with that time balance and figuring out how do I manage all of that.
What do you feel like would inspire you to create deeper, more meaningful community around you beyond the relationship that me and you have with each other?
I was genuinely just thinking about this, and for me, I want to find more people in the places that I already go. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because I am somebody that can easily get overwhelmed, and I think if something is too overwhelming for me, I just won't do it at all. And so I was thinking about building more community and deeper connections in the places that I already go.
Like where?
Like the gym, right?
Okay.
Like finding people in classes, actually, consistently going with them and maybe grabbing a coffee after. That is a lot easier to me than actually planning something outside of that where someone's not connected to my life at all. Does that make sense? And it sounds kind of selfish because I'm like, you must be going to the different things that I'm doing.
No, but I
think
what community is. It's like a local community. That's what we were talking about this morning, is that you like thrive when you just have it downstairs.
Yeah.
When you have it out of your door, or like in close proximity, rather than you having to drive or like 30 miles away.
Someone far away that I'm talking to on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's
right?
That's what I'm saying.
That's on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast. It's a lot more challenging.
I have a really hard time keeping up with people that I don't live near.
Yeah.
That's why I focus way more on actually creating in-person connections, but it is harder for me.
No, but it's nice. I feel this sense of community when there are people close. Like one of my closest friends lives 10 minutes from me. And when I'm growing my vegetables inside, I'll bring her a bowl of salad. And that's just
it's the cutest thing. That's like what community is.
I love that.
Sharing food, sharing things, like,
or like they have a smoker and they'll bring over like smoked meat. It's just a nice thing. So yeah, I feel like having people close by, but I think it is more challenging. Like my closest friend, we don't really do a lot of the same activities. So we have to plan a 7 a.m. walk during the week in order to see each other.
Can we talk more about like the activities like to do together also? Because this is a podcast really about personal growth, wellness, deepening relationships, and all of those things. But you really won't find either me or you doing things that stray away from that goal like, so much. Like we believe in balance. And so we'll go out every now and then. But like most of the things that we're doing with our friends or any type of community is either physical activity or just having a nice meal together or doing something like that. Yeah.
No, it's most of my hangouts consist of walking. Like genuinely, I'm like, let's go for a walk. But also we live in San Diego. We're so grateful to be here because it's pretty much nice weather all the time. So a lot of it consists of going for a walk.
What would you do if you lived in a place that was colder? Because you grew up in colder places.
Yeah, I grew up in Colorado, and the wintertime, you're not really going for a walk unless you want to slip on black ice. But I would change activities a bit. I mean, it depends on what stage of my life you're talking about, but growing up, I always played sports. So it was always some kind of indoor soccer, and that was my form of connection with people. But as I was a little bit older and when I was living in Colorado, I would what did I do? I mean, I guess it was more of like coffee shops and bookstores, like your inside kind of thing. Maybe we'll go to the mall. I don't know. I guess it is different, but a lot of it, I think, during the winter seasons in a colder place is eating. And that was also really challenging because I always struggled with food. And I always felt like during the holiday season, I didn't want to just have that be the main activity that we were doing, because it just didn't feel as like, I love an experience. I love going to eat, but I just didn't feel as good during that time of the year when that was the only activity that I was doing. Yeah. I mean, you can relate to that. It was diners all day long, right?
But you love the diner. I love a good diner. But switching topics a little bit, what do you feel like people can do who are wanting to, and we're working on this as well. So this podcast is really about how we're doing this ourselves in our own life and how we can also inspire you to do the same thing, because we want to see you grow. We want to see you feel connected and just good about the life that you're creating. So when we're talking about creating community, what do you feel like are some suggestions for people to not only just meet those friends, but to deepen those friendships and to build that community around them, no matter, the distance?
There was some stat that was out there about how long it takes to actually call someone your friend.
I think it was like 300 hours or something. Like it's
a lot of hours, like maybe 264. I just made that up. We'll check it. Don't quote me. But it takes a lot of hours. So think about how many times you'd have to see someone if you only see them for 1 hour. So I would say, number one, can you trust the journey a little bit more and trust the process of making this person your friend? And
what do you actually need to do for yourself to show up as a good community member? I think that's something
you have to take care of yourself. You have to be able to understand, like, what is it that you need that week before you go out and pour into everyone else. And sometimes what you need is being in community. Yeah. Right.
But I think about like the type of person that I want to be showing up in communities, and it's actually contributing back into that community. Like, you were just going to a networking event that creates community, and they ask you what you can actually contribute to the space instead of you just taking. And I think that's a really big part of community building, is being self-aware enough to know that you got to give and take in all types of relationships. It has to be reciprocated. You have to be self-aware enough to know who you are in that space.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think too, the different groups that you're a part of, how serious are they? Is it a group that's just like, I heard somebody talking the other day, because I was asking them, I'm like, oh, what kinds of things do you do? I think we were at like some kind of party or something, an event on New Year's, and I forget who I was talking to, but they were saying that they go to this one group, and I was like, oh, do you ever stay in touch with anyone? And they're like, no, not really. You just meet a new person every time. I'm like, okay, so then you can expect that from that group, you know, but then it's also about the person.
I think it depends.
And what you put into it. Yeah. Some people aren't like that. Some people don't want to continue. Yeah. Some people do. So it's about finding people that you connect with, and then maybe just asking, what are you looking for in a friend? Or are you looking for friends? Yeah. And it's a weird conversation, but it's also very normal.
We've been really diving deep into this topic for about a year now, just diving into what being a friend means, how to deepen relationships, because at the end of all of this, we're not only talking about romantic relationships on this podcast and even with each other, because community,
that's not the end.
No, like, it's a beautiful thing to have romantic relationships, but other types of community, whether it's in your family, it's people that you work with in business or in your work, or it's just personal relationships, those help you grow and become the person that you are and who you will become. And I think it's so important to not just let that slide, because community is good for our mental health. It's good for our life. It's good for every aspect of life. And I think the more that you can focus on the person that you are and who you want to become and how you want to show up and how you want to give, you'll be able to get that right back. And so I'm constantly looking for spaces to to be in, and I have to evaluate because I don't have all the time in the world to just go and meet people, because I also have a social battery that drains very fast and I'm a pretty shy person, I feel. And so I have to make strategic decisions of the type of people that I want to be around, who I connect with, what are my expectations, what are their expectations of all of it. Even if it's a group, I'm not even just saying a one-on-one, but knowing like I love being in sports teams. We were just talking about that because I like bonding over something instead of just talking with someone and just getting to know them. I think it's an easier introduction for someone like me to do a sport and just to talk about that, and then
it's also so good for you to be working towards something.
Yeah, I love it. So I think it's like it's really whatever works for you. But Keely and I are working on just diving more into how to build healthy community, how to build better cultures, knowing where we're all at in this society and in the world right now. Like Keely and I's, I don't even know if that's correct, our other company really dives into leadership development so people can create better cultures within their organizations. And I think this topic, whether you're talking about personal or professional, extends to everybody. We all need healthy community. We all need people that we can rely on and that we could feel safe with psychologically, that we can just go to for whatever it is that we need to go to. And
so I think, let us know if you want us to talk to your HR person. We'll shift the culture.
Yeah. But I think it's such an important conversation that I want to talk about deepening all types of relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because they matter. All relationships matter. And I want to dedicate this podcast to deepening more relationships. So I hope through listening to this podcast, you know that you can have better relationships, and it requires you being self-aware, you knowing where you're at, how can you create local community if you're around, and if it doesn't feel like a safe space for you to go in your local community, how can you reach out to other people beyond AI, because I think that's important. Don't just talk to AI all day. That may not be good for you. But thinking about how can you really extend so that you can grow and just share life with other people that are inspiring you.
I love it. I am excited to hear what your thoughts are on this podcast and how you're building community in your own life. Share the challenges, share the wins. Send us an email, team@comingathappy.com. We want to hear from you. Just put the episode title in the subject and we can chat more. I love hearing your feedback. I love hearing, what you take away from this podcast. So let us know how it applies, and ask yourself this question: in 2024, how can I build more community? Because you deserve it. You genuinely do. And it can make a significant impact on your mental health, even when right now it feels like the last thing you want to do. So just do it, and you've got this. We're always here for you. Make sure that you're subscribed to this podcast. Check out our vlogs on YouTube. You can watch the video on YouTube if you're not already watching it on here. All of it is just happening all the time on all of our social medias. So make sure that you're connected with us, and we can't wait to hear from you.
See you next time.
Bye.